Hello and welcome to
Hey, we like your pod.
And we're going to tell you why. Hi, it's Dawn here, and I am joined, as always, by my trusted partner, Matt Pickett. How you doing, Maddie?
I'm good. I'm just adjusting my leg. I didn't have the quite right. Let's go with that. I'm good. So yeah, it's a wonderful day here. You know, that sort of like post-Thanksgiving, acting like a slug, kind of hanging out, letting that food digest, and just kind of, you know, reveling in the glory of a day with very little obligations. We're not Black Friday people. We just like to sit around and kind of chill. So it was a wonderful day. We had still my wife's sister, who lives in Indy. She was, you know, stayed overnight with us instead of driving home last night in a turkey coma. So we went and got some breakfast at one of our favorite like family restaurants, and just kind of hung out all day. It was really great. How are you doing?
That sounds perfect. I'm doing very well. I had a nice day. Tasha and I had a great day. I'm excited to go live with you tonight. So we've had guests for the last 3 episodes, so it's just you and me.
Right.
How much football did you watch yesterday? How much of that?
Roughly a total of probably almost 2 total games between like quarters that I missed here and there.
Yeah.
But I caught a little bit of every game. What were your thoughts? Do you have any? How much did you watch? Do you have any thoughts about any of them?
I watched. So here's my first superlative. And by the way, welcome everyone who's joining us live. We are here recording our podcast. This is our 2nd season, and so we've done about going on 70 podcasts together, Matt and I. And if you're new to this channel, I've combined our Hey, We Like Your Pod show and my other shows on the same channel now, because it's just easier for me. So if you're seeing this and I'm not talking about skincare or makeup, and I'm not talking about true crime, it doesn't mean you're in the wrong place. It just means you're on one of my other shows. So join us if you like, or if this isn't interesting to you, well, we'll see you on one of the other shows. So welcome either way. And thank you for all our new followers. So my first superlative is all about yesterday. And so I forgot that I did this, but I like to, when I first started getting interested in football, I really do credit Tom Grassi for helping me with that. Mm-hmm. He made it so fun and interesting. And I used to watch almost all of his live podcasts or live shows on YouTube for at least the Packer games. But then things got busier. Life happened. But I will tell you something, and I forgot to mention this last week, is Thursday, the Thanksgiving day, he live streamed all 3 games.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think he was doing the raids last time. I can't remember doing a raid with him, but I participated in a few raids, and that was super fun. And so that was my day. I kind of had a migraine on Wednesday night, so I wasn't feeling great on Thursday. Was a really good day for me to be just chilling out, and I had tofu tacos. That was and oftentimes that's what I have. I do not. I'm primarily vegan as much as I can be, except for if health calls. But I do crave turkey at this time of the year, so you never know. I might have some before the end of the year comes. But yeah, so I had my tofu tacos and my Tom Grassi day, and I just had so much fun with it. Super fun.
Sounds like heaven. You're just out there gobbling some tofu, basically.
Tofu, and I was probably snacking a little. I can't remember exactly what, but yeah. And you know, it's that kind. I didn't have any chocolate or anything like that this year. I have it here, but I didn't partake for some reason. But yeah, and I created some content for a couple of my shows. And this show, I worked on a couple of things and got my superlatives together. So if you're not familiar with our show and you are watching, Matt and I. We are NFL fans. We're both Packers fans, but we love football. I like to watch as many games as I possibly can. I used to hate football, so it's kind of a funny story. And then what we like to do, and the reason we kind of met on Twitter is because we both really take in a lot of other content. I listen to a lot of podcasts. YouTube's kind of been my favorite lately, and a lot of podcasters are live streaming like we are now on YouTube. And we like to just talk about what we found for the week that helps others sift through all of the content, especially about the Packers. But sometimes I branch off a little with other teams and NFL law because that's interesting to me. So there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot. Oh, Tosh, that was my cat. She's okay. Anyway, so I just kind of got some content together, and just didn't feel the pressure. It was just quiet and nice, and I like to take holidays. For me, are when everybody's doing their crazy stuff. That's when I get to just stay home and collect myself and catch up, because I always feel like I have so much to do and I'm never going to catch up. And so I use holidays for catch up time, and then I feel better. So
sounds like a relaxing day, productive day. That's awesome.
Very productive. And so Tom Grassi's my first superlative, most fun way to enjoy football. So most fun and educational, and this is a great community over on his page.
Nice.
So like always we'll have, and I have a little surprise for Matt tonight, but you don't know about it. So
this is a surprise.
I got a little surprise. It's from a fan. And so 'tis the season, I guess.
Okay, cool. So as far as the games go, Dawn, were you like me? Were you rooting for the Lions like I was?
Pretty much. And I really do like the Lions. The Lions are really getting good. They're getting better. They're getting better. I was hoping they'd pull it off. Pretty disappointed, but I like that it was such a good game. And most of the games yesterday, for the most part, were pretty good and close. And
the first and last ones,
that was great. Yeah. The Cowboys and the Giants were pretty well matched too. I think there was a larger point spread than what really was reflected on the game. It wasn't. I think they had a 10-point lead at the end, but Mike McCarthy's doing great over there with those Cowboys. Good for him.
I'm just glad we beat them. That's all I really care about for that.
Isn't that great? I love that we beat them.
And what was it? The game was New England, and who were they playing? I can't remember.
Why can't I remember anything?
The Vikings. Duh, of course, the Vikings. Yeah.
Oh, the Vikings. Yes.
That was disappointing, but so it goes.
Right. Yeah, the Vikings the Patriots were looking pretty good too. Gave them a run for their money.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't normally watch Vikings game, and so I was paying attention to a lot of things that people talk about as far as the Vikings experience, the home game experience, and I saw that thing go off. I think it's a horn. Yes. I don't know.
I hate that thing.
There's a lot that goes on. And then I saw the skull chant for the first time, and that scared me. That literally scared me. It looked hypnotic and weird and like cultish.
Culty, I was going to say.
Yeah, totally. It was like, ew, I wouldn't do that.
No.
That's not a good look. But hey, to each his own.
Totally.
But I was paying more attention because it was, I don't normally pay attention to the Vikings.
Yeah, it was 3 really good games with a lot of like really fun plays and fun moments and stuff. So like, being able to watch those with just like only a little bit of like, it doesn't matter to me too much of the outcomes of those games. There was like a team I was rooting for each one of them. Definitely, it was fun to root for the Lions. They're such a fun, scrappy team this year.
Yeah,
and you can't help but like Dan Campbell. I mean, his attitude and his his whole thing. It's very enjoyable. So I like the games yesterday a lot. Watched most of it either while I was finishing up preparations because I was in charge of the turkey, the gravy, and 2 dressings.
Okay.
Posted a quick video yesterday on Twitter of the stock that I was working on. But we were went over to my wife's parents' house, my in-laws, and most of my brothers and sisters-in-law, all but one of them, were there. So it was a big feast.
Wow.
I think we had like 12 people eating. So one of my brothers-in-law is like an outstanding chef, and so he brought like 4 different like massive side dishes, and we have like containers full of leftovers in our fridge. It was glorious. My wife made 3 different kinds of pie. My
Oh,
goodness.
wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
She's
I
a
was
baker.
wondering, so, okay, so because I know you like to cook and you're in charge
Mhm,
of cooking it for your family.
mhm.
And so I wasn't sure if you were like doing the whole meal yourself or if you were splitting it up, but I see you went somewhere else and you
Yeah,
brought the turkey.
there's so many of us that like
Hmm.
had to cook
Yeah.
all the very ridiculous. But yeah, no, fortunately, yeah, we divide the labor. Yeah. So, but I
That
had
sounds great.
the main stuff.
Yeah. And did you make your turkey like that YouTube channel said, or were you just joking? You
Yeah.
did.
So,
Okay.
the way how I prepared the turkey was the day before. I broke it down, slaughtered it, you might say, into its
Yeah.
different parts.
That's why I never get past that part. It's like,
I kind of I love that breaking down a bird. I do that with chicken a lot at home. So this was like
mm,
cut it into its parts and then dry brine it overnight in the fridge, and then you take the carcass, you make a stock that cooks overnight, kind of like on a low simmer. So you wake up on Thanksgiving morning and it smells like Thanksgiving in the whole house, and
mm-hmm.
it's amazing. It smells so good. And then make gravy with the stock and make soups later with leftover stock and stuff like that. So turned out
Yeah.
pretty good. Turned out really nicely actually.
Good for you. That sounds great. That makes me a little hungry, but yeah, I can't. If I have it, somebody else has to make it. I can't. Like just looking at a bird that's
Mm.
dead. I just can't. I can't. And then cutting it like with a knife and all that. Even when I was a kid, when my mother would, make meals for us, if there was like chicken and it was on the bone, I wouldn't eat it unless she took it off separate from my
Uh-huh.
plate. I was always that way. It's not something I am. It's by choice. It's just who I am.
Sure.
So, oh, that sounds delicious, though. So, what about these 4 side dishes? Do you remember what he brought?
Yeah, let's see what I can think of it. So he had a, really amazing sweet potato sort of like whipped sweet potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
There was a corn pudding.
Mm,
There
mm.
was a green bean casserole, and one of the best macaroni and cheeses I've ever had. Now, my wife and I both grew up like without macaroni and cheese as part
Same
of
here.
the Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like that's more recent, and I know it's more common in like the Black community, for example.
yeah.
Um,
It's a must in a lot of
yeah,
families.
Yeah, totally. So he made this massive pan of mac and cheese, one of the best macs and cheeses I've ever had. Macs and cheese? Mac and cheeses? Is it
That's
like
yeah.
director general where you say like directors general? Or is it
I think it's max and cheese.
I'll go with macs and cheese. Yeah. Maxes and cheeses. It was amazing. It was very tasty, and I ended up with like several to-go containers left in our fridge now of it because he made so much to take home.
Oh, yum.
So very happy about that. Yeah, it was an outstanding day. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, Dawn. I don't know if I told you that before, but it's my favorite because you got 3 things that are amazing. Yeah, family, food, and football. And like these are 3 of my favorite things in the world. So
Yeah.
having them all on the same day in such abundance. I mean, I know that not everybody has like family they can be with, and I understand that like not everybody likes their family. So
Right.
I understand like I am speaking from a place of privilege here, in that I have like a really wonderful set of in-laws in town here in
Mhm.
Cincinnati, and that there's people in the family who can cook really well. And then football, everyone has football, but so like I get that, so if if you're listening, you're like, man, I don't know, Matt, I don't have those things. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to like shove it in your face, but for me, it's a lovely day.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody's a little bit different. I grew up with all those things. I could do, and I had friends here that I used to spend Thanksgiving with. Her family moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I could go there. I could go to other places, but my choice is not to do holidays, but not for any, I'm not bitter about it, but I do realize that it's a time of year for a lot of unhappiness for a lot of people. So for anyone who needs somebody to talk with who's not celebrating the holidays, maybe it's not for the same reason or whatever, I'm available because I don't do those things on the holidays. It can be really stressful for a lot of people, and we
Yep.
want our friends to know that we're here for them, right?
And I just add that when Dawn says she's there for you, I just want to say Dawn's a wonderful person to talk to. So definitely reach out if you need someone to talk to with that stuff.
Yeah, or if you just want somebody to listen to, but please,
Mm-hmm.
please don't suffer in silence if you're feeling like you're just so lonely or you just don't want to be alone.
Yep.
Pick up the phone. Yeah, or text or message, or we're everywhere. You can find us everywhere. So Yeah. So I have some interesting choices for superlatives this week. They're not about the Packers. We had 10 days off before Sunday's game, so I haven't even gotten my head ready for the next games. I just enjoyed so many games yesterday. My whole head is always messed up during the holidays anyway. So today I thought it was like Saturday, and everything gets all confusing for me. But so we haven't talked about, should we go back and forth, or I kind of have a theme? I mean, I mentioned one superlative is Tom Grassi most fun way to spend Thanksgiving.
That's a good one. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, especially if you're not like if with your family or whatever. It's really fun. It's really fun.
Well, let's go back and forth. Let's do that.
Okay. What do you
All
have?
Right. So my first one tonight is best discussion. This is the podcast I mentioned a couple times that I started listening to recently. Reporting is eligible. This week, the folks who were available to be on it were Paul Noonan and Matub. They were talking about a lot of things. That it was like mostly just a question show, and they take questions from their Patreon. I think there's a Discord that they're part of, and there definitely is, but I think they take questions from that and then questions from Twitter. Okay. And one of the questions that somebody asked was like, how long does it take to actually evaluate a young quarterback's play to see if they're worth like a contract extension and keeping around, or if you need to cut bait and go somebody else? Obviously, a very relevant conversation for the Packers and the Packer fans. Like we don't necessarily, we as fans don't know what we have in Jordan Love. And like, there's the question of like, does the coaching staff, and like, yeah, they see him, in practice, they have a sense of it. But as far as like real game reps, it's not been a lot, especially if you don't count preseason. So, and thinking through that question, one of the really interesting points that Matub made was that they had thought for most of Josh Allen's, rookie contract as a quarterback that he wasn't very good. Then he suddenly just came on at the end there. So it's like, you might say, oh, you get like, 5 or 6 game, half a season, full season, whatever, like to just evaluate their play. But sometimes you need longer to let them develop and become what they are. And now Josh Allen, of course, one of the best quarterbacks, I think unquestionably top 5, if not like top 3 playing this year, So sometimes you need to give them that time to really show you. And
that's right.
Jordan Love, again, we haven't seen a whole lot of him yet. Like, could he develop into somebody, of the caliber or even remotely close to it of, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers to continue the streak? Like, we don't know. And he's not going to have the chance to unless we extend his contract. And it's just very confusing. But this whole discussion about like how long you need to be able to give a contract, a rookie quarterback time to develop to see what they have was really interesting. Like the different perspectives they brought to it, and that's a great podcast. Those guys are really good, even with just the two of them this week, because J.R. Radcliffe couldn't be there, and I know that sometimes Tyler Brook joins them. So even just the two of them was a great show. Highly recommended.
Yeah. I would like to listen to that, because that's a conversation happening. If you're not a Packers fan, but you are a football fan, and you're not, obviously we pay more attention to the teams that we're following and rooting for. But Rodgers has been playing, with a broken thumb for the better part of the season so far. There's an argument as to why is he playing then? Why aren't we just isn't that what a backup quarterback is for? We don't exactly know what the reasons are, but he's being paid $50 million this season. So there's that. The thing I keep thinking of is it's not, the problems that the Packers are having right now are so widespread. So would it be fair to evaluate Jordan Love when we don't have a solid offensive line going on, and to throw a different quarterback in could also make things worse? I mean, we don't want injuries. We don't want things to happen because we're, the whole thing just kind of falling apart. And I don't know that it would or is, but I'm just saying that's got to be a consideration. There's so many different things to consider. I would love to see him out there. I don't think it would be fair to even evaluate him with we don't even have a half a season left now. So, we've had quarterbacks, not just with the Packers, but many teams, that it takes a few years for them to really start developing. Nobody really that thought Tom Brady was going to be who he became. Hardly anyone thought that. He was just a competitor. And what I've read about him is he's like, you're going to know who I am. He was not the top pick.
He was drafted like the 3rd or 4th round, right? Something like that.
Right. So, yeah. So it'll be interesting. Of course, we're watching, and I'd love to see Jordan Love play, but in a fair, with enough support.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's impossible. But to have him play a few games toward the end of the season or something like that, I don't see how we can evaluate him based on just a few games. And practice is not games.
Right. Absolutely.
So whatever they're seeing, and because you've got nerves, and you're on television, national television, international fans,
Mm-hmm.
not even national. So yeah, the sooner the better. I just don't know. Again, if they can't keep him safe, if the offensive line cannot protect him, I don't want him out there, because he is our future, possibly.
We don't know yet.
Right. But let's just say he is our future.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea of why we have him there.
Yeah.
He was drafted. We paid a lot, in terms of our
draft
level. So that's such an interesting, I'm glad you brought that one up. So by the way, again, if you're new, or just by way of reminder, all of the shout outs that we mentioned, all of the, the research that we do during the week, we drop those in the show notes after the show. So whether you're watching live or listening on your favorite podcasts, we do drop the podcast on Saturdays. I'm kind of reviewing all this, Maddie, because we've had quite a few new followers this week. So
that's exciting. That's cool. That's
so
smart. I would never thought to kind of give the rundown as we go, but I'm glad you're doing that. That's smart.
Yay. So my second superlative after Tom Grassi being the most fun way to spend Thanksgiving if you like football. And if you're a vegan, he's a vegan too. So, best fans. And we have so many great Packers fans, but did you know we have Hey Willip fans?
No, I didn't know that. If I'm being honest.
We have fans. We have fans here in where I live in the San Diego area that watch us every week or listen to our podcasts.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
And one of them has a vintage jersey that she wants you to have.
Me?
You.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know if you can see it.
Yep.
And it's a funny thing is, Ahmad Green.
Ahmad Green, yeah.
I had just watched a little thing about him.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden she's like, hey, and she wants this to be like a secret surprise for you.
That's so kind.
I know, it's so sweet.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so it's an official jersey from, I can't even remember the year he played. I looked it all up, but I had just been like watching a show about him or something. I can't remember. And then she contacted me and said, she has this gift for you. And she wanted to secretly send it to you. So the only way she could do that is through me. So I got it first. So number 30 is coming your way. Ahmad Green. I'm not sure if she had it in her closet. I don't know the backstory, but maybe we'll find out one day. So super fans.
Later I'll have to get the person who gave it, get their information so I can send a proper thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, she'll watch or replay or listen, so you can say thank you tonight if you want. But
thank you very much. That's so kind.
Fun?
That's super fun.
I thought that was so fun.
Yeah.
So a lot of people feel like thankful and giving this time of year more than ever, and she might have done it any time of year. I don't know the backstory that much, but she just felt like you had to have this.
Wow. Oh shucks, this is awesome.
I know, that's sweet. So super fans, very thankful for our fans and the people that support us every week on our show. So what else do you have, Maddie?
Yeah, okay, so my second one is most awesome. So last week we talked about Big B and his Make-A-Wish weekend and how he got to eat a burrito with Aaron Rodgers and all this stuff. And of course, he also found out from Aaron Rodgers that he's been playing with a broken thumb, so Big B was the first one to break that news. And some people were doubters. They're like, what's this kid doing? What's this all about? And then, this week, I want to say it was on Wednesday, at his locker, Aaron Rodgers admitted that he's had a broken thumb. And so this was big news. It made national news really fast. Yeah. Of course, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to make news. Mm-hmm. And then of course people were saying Big B broke this 5 days ago. This kid said this on Twitter and you can find it. And so somebody brought this to Ian Rappaport's attention. Of course, Ian Rappaport, a national reporter, one of the big top people to break news for the NFL broadly. So Ian
Wow.
Rappaport went back and found Big B's tweet and retweeted it, like quote tweeted it,
Shut up.
Yes, for real.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
Quote tweeted Big B, Ian Rappaport. It was
Big
like the
B.
coolest thing.
Oh
So
my gosh.
that was just so awesome. So 2 weeks in a row of props for our friend Big B.
Oh,
Dude, man, we're also happy for you to see that happen. That is amazing.
so happy. And I really do love the Make-A-Wish Foundation
Mhm.
a lot. They do really cool things, and I just loved so much about that. And isn't that cool? And if for those of you who are new to the show, Big B has been on our show.
Mhm.
And Big B and Joey, they are the two hosts of the Underage Packers podcast. They also do their show here on YouTube. And last year or the year before, when Aaron Rodgers kind of did a nod to Joey? Do you remember that?
Was that last year? It was during COVID, because that's when they would always say who the reporters were
Right.
in the press conferences.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because did you want to tell the story about that, or should I?
No, go for it.
Yeah. So Joey, the other co-host of the Underage Packers podcast, but they're both teenagers, and they're very knowledgeable fans, very fun to listen to, very entertaining. It's a great podcast. You should check it out. Joey had done a parody video of the reporters, because once you learn their names, because they're saying like, Tom Silverstein, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, like you get to get a better sense of who they are as people, their sort of tics, their approach to questions, their personalities come through, and you start to see that. So Joey, like myself, Joey and I both would be people who would pay a lot of attention to those details. And so he made a parody video of like the different reporters asking questions. And he did one with Jason Wilde, who I'll say is an excellent reporter, huge fan. So I'm not trying to throw any shade here. And neither was Joey, because it was meant as a tribute. But his question was like rambling on and on and on and on. And it said like, it cut to like a sign that said 25 minutes later. And then he's just trying to wrap up the question, which, in all fairness, Jason Wilde's questions do tend to be fairly long.
That's how mine would be. Yeah.
Not an insult, not criticism. It's just a fact. Yeah. So Aaron Rodgers saw this somehow, whoever showed it to him. And so Jason Wilde was about to ask a question, and Aaron Rodgers in this press conference said, let's keep it to 25 minutes or something like that. So just clearly had seen Joey's video and then referenced it in a press conference. And so that was also very awesome.
And then Matt LaFleur did too.
Yeah, that's right.
Really cute. They brought it forward. I mean, these two guys, oh my gosh. So fun to follow. So fun. I miss that. I miss that because of the mass exodus of Twitter. I haven't left Twitter, but I haven't been on it as much. Which leads to.
I was going to say, doesn't that lead into your next one?
It does. So let's see. I'm going to call this most questionable. Only because it's been questioned a lot, not because I really believe it's the most questionable. So everybody calm down. So the future of Packers Twitter, and I'm just saying, really, I'm talking about Twitter, the future of Twitter. So I'm just going to lay out some facts as I know them. And anyone, if I have any of this not quite right, feel free to pipe in and let us know. So, and I picked up on some content, and which I will mention in the show notes, but so I'm kind of summarizing several, putting them together with a little outline. It's kind of long. So pure genius. Elon Musk paid $44 billion for Twitter like yesterday. It was only a couple of weeks ago, right? It just seemed it was yesterday. And it's already devalued at approximately $8 billion. So can you imagine, let's say, investing $4,400 and having it turn into $800 2 weeks later, if on your family budget, like a normal human being, right? And then trying to explain that to your spouse. So that's about an 80% drop. So congratulations, boy wonder. 50%, you can tell how I feel about this now. 50% of advertisers have already left the platform. And we all know that's how social media keeps the wheels turning is advertising, as in most businesses. So where does that leave Twitter today? Well, maybe bankruptcy. And even Elon Musk has explicitly stated that bankruptcy is on the table. This is, again, let me remind you, 2 weeks after he bought this thing for $44 billion. Well, he bought it because he was kind of forced to, because he that's another backstory. I'm not going to get into all the legal stuff, but he opened his
He's
mouth.
He's on a dare, basically.
Yeah. So, so by most accounts, Elon paid too much for Twitter. Duh, obviously. And it's possible. It is possible. So this is why all the chatter is valid. It's possible that Twitter could shut down because it's in a free fall collapse right now. But it's more likely that it would just go into bankruptcy, and the debtors would take a massive, as they call, haircut. Or even just the threat of bankruptcy, which he's already put out there, basically. They're already taking some haircuts. And behind the scenes, there are reports that banks are currently marketing their debt to others at about 60 cents on the dollar. So they're trying to sell that debt off.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're really trying to get 70 cents on the dollar. So that tells you how bad this really is. So Twitter might be only worth $8 billion at this point, meaning that the all of Elon and his investors, which no doubt he brought other people's money into this, have lost 80% of their investments. So Elon Musk just went billions into debt to buy they're saying his favorite bird website. For what reasons, he got into this. That's another long story. But then he turned around and started firing everyone. Okay. And making a big spectacle about that. And some people are, rejoicing about that and making fun of people and saying they were privileged, but these are people with families. And these are not other billionaires that he's firing. He's people like you and me. So just bear that in mind. So by the way, just since I'm on a roll with this, Zuckerberg, we know from Facebook, just laid off 11,000 people.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, that was headlines a couple days ago. And at the same time, he's spending $36 billion on this metaverse thing, which I still haven't figured out. And I know pretty much the ins and outs of Facebook, but it's like, who wants something extra? It's just extra.
Yeah, it seems, I don't know. I don't want to say it seems like a scam or like a shell game or whatever, but like remains to be seen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I've always had trouble with Zuckerberg. I mean, Facebook is, useful for a lot of reasons, but, the whole idea that he actually took the technology that was his schoolmates and the whole thing, it just left a bad, it's never been a real great image for him. So, and then meanwhile, 30-year-old crypto billionaire Sam Bankman-Fried turned out to be nothing than a massive fraud with this crypto FTX thing, which is also, and so that's evaporating. So all these boy geniuses, right, that people are wanting to say are so great, they are hurting people. Like this crypto thing has hurt. They're saying it's going to be bigger than Enron with the damage to just regular folks who bought the spiel. And the reason I brought that one up too is because Tom Brady and Giselle and other NFL players, big wigs, who have millions to spare, they were on board with that. Some invested in it, but a lot of them were promoting that and what looks like to be some kind of a weird pyramid scheme. I'm not sure how they're going to end up categorizing that whole thing, but that just evaporated, by the way, with one tweet. So it was one tweet by I'm not going to go into that, but it was Binance, like B instead of finance. CZ Binance tweeted, I think it was a couple of days ago, and it just brought the whole thing down.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah. So if you don't understand the power of social media and the importance of understanding kind of what's going on, I don't know. This is a really important time right now to pay attention to these things. And, and speaking of tweets, so Tom Brady's like puts out this tweet, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Or, it's like, oh, okay. But he moves on and there's people losing their homes, their cars, their they're not eating Thanksgiving. Can you imagine how they felt yesterday? So there's a lot going on. And it's just maddening. It's just maddening. Now, I'm not saying Twitter, we should get off Twitter, or I'm keeping my account on Twitter and all that. I think all of the big companies are just so wealthy that anything can happen with any of them. But a lot of people are saying that they are going to leave, and for principled reasons, right? So if you're listening to this and you're going to leave Twitter, we're over here on YouTube right now. I've actually stopped our Facebook and Instagram. It's like I'm just going to kind of focus us on just a little bit more, less places, so that we can just find our happy place until it falls apart, at least. But yeah, all this stuff, I didn't know how familiar with any of this facts. I mean, we're hearing these headlines, we're seeing these headlines, but this is kind of a summation of the backstory of the questionable future of Twitter, and thus Packer Twitter. I feel like I feel like they're always going to be a Packers Twitter. It just might not be on Twitter. There's Reddit, there's Substack, there's a lot
Packers
of
online community of some sort. Yeah.
So, and we might still call it Packer Twitter. Why not?
Why not?
Well, back in the day, it was the blogosphere, and when people actually blogged. No one blogs anymore, hardly.
Hardly, yeah.
Anywho, so that is most questionable and understandable why some of Packers folks are leaving Twitter, and we just want to shout out to you. You might leave Twitter, but please stay in touch.
You might leave Twitter, but you'll always be in our hearts.
Yes. We're going to be here somewhere floating around. All righty, Maddie. So
that's a lot to think about. There's a lot to chew on there, Dawn.
It's a lot.
My goodness. Yeah. Big stuff.
Well, and then it gets into the whole legal stuff that's always kind of interesting to me.
No doubt. All right. Should I do my last one then?
All
right. For my third and final superlative for the week, I have most uplifting. So this was a great article I ran across today from Greg Meinholz. We need to have him on the show at some point.
Really good guy. Greg, please. Yes.
Greg will reach out to you at some point, man. So he wrote an article about the Packers 2022 draft picks progress so far. And so the reason why I say this is uplifting is because, especially compared to the last couple of drafts, this has been like a really good one in terms of contributions happening from like the rookies. A lot of good stuff you're seeing. Of course, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Quay Walker has been doing really great. Just to name a couple of them that have had like good contributions. Unfortunately, the news broke today that Sean Ryan is not going to be a contributing member of the team for the rest of the season. You heard about that, right, Dawn?
No.
Yeah, he's suspended for performance enhancing drugs for violations of the policies around that. So. He's only had like one snap this whole season, so it's kind of like you hate to see it, but it's not going to hurt the team much. But that is a huge bummer for somebody, in their first year in the NFL, and hopefully they, learn from their mistakes and come back next year ready to contribute. But back to the topic at hand, just kind of going over and seeing it all in one article, like all the good things that our rookies have done this season it felt good, in a season that's kind of like going circling the drain, unless we went out and, hey, maybe we beat the Eagles this week. Maybe it happens. I don't know.
That'd be fun.
I didn't think we were going to beat the Cowboys, and it was amazing. So you don't know, but
I never give up on the Packers. I never can give up on you just never know. Well, any team.
I know. Anyway. So, but suffice to say, Greg is one of those guys who's doing really great writing, and I feel like does not get nearly enough attention. So, check out his stuff regularly, folks. He's a very good writer. So that's my last one.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, my last one is going to be also a little bit related to law, because that's kind of my thing right now lately. I felt like I spent a lot of time over the months really talking about what's going on with the Commanders and the NFL and all these different lawsuits. It's just such a house of cards. But one thing I didn't get to bring up, and it's really kind of a summation and a culmination of everything. I think it's worthwhile to just kind of end on this one. So I'm calling it the most civil. And this is the civil lawsuit that's being brought by the Attorney General of Washington, D.C. against Dan Snyder. And so I just want to quickly summarize as quickly as I can. Okay, so it's they're filing a consumer protection lawsuit. Law is interesting. So, and it's going to be in a civil court, not a criminal court. And generally, civil courts are a little bit easier to get prosecution, to get a guilty verdicts and such. So, it's reasonable to think that this might be what's needed to tie this whole thing up with a bow and maybe. So, but what's interesting is how he laid it out. So it's not just against Dan Snyder, but it's also against the Washington Commander team, the NFL, and Roger Goodell personally. So, and this is for colluding to deceive residents of the District of Columbia about their investigation into a toxic workplace culture that impacted employees, especially women. And this deception was done allegedly to protect their profits and their image. And with this lawsuit, they're trying to stand up for DC residents. So they're going about it as, for protecting the fans who were repeatedly lied to and deceived. And they feel, and the Attorney General said he feels that they have the right to know the truth about the companies that they support with their hard-earned dollars, meaning these football teams, and all of what's happening with all of the teams and the NFL and Goodell. So he summarized, he said, since the fall of 2020, they had been carefully investigating and very thoroughly investigating behind the scenes. So this has been going on for a couple of years, this investigation. So that's our legal system at work. And it's kind of, heartening to me. And about, the commanders and Mr. Snyder personally related to the allegations of sexual harassment and workplace misconduct and the circumstances around the NFL's, what he called so-called independent investigation. So he's calling this out in the lawsuit. So this matters to everyone, even though it's in DC. It's really a bold move, and it's really a move for justice. So I just found it really surprising, honestly, to see him come out, and he's not just taking a little part of it, as lawyers often do. Just, well, we can get this thing passed, and we can sure go after this one thing, but he's taken the whole bite of the whole apple here. And so they've done a full investigation, meaning they have witnesses that they've talked to. They've got employees of the commanders that they've talked to. They've got enough evidence to support this and to support this lawsuit. They didn't do it and then do the investigation later. So just so you know, that all of that's been going on for the last 2 years with this Attorney General's office. So basically, the problem is the hostile and toxic work culture at the commanders, but also the sham of an investigation, and the fact that all that we've got so far is like, what is it, 7 sentences, from that first investigation, and a promise that another one is going on. So they want to make sure that the public is not left out of the process, and that they were led to believe that only way change would happen is by doing this, is by bringing this lawsuit. So yeah, so that's why they're suing Snyder, Goodell, Commanders, and the NFL. So man, what a statement. It was a long I think it was like a 15-minute statement. You can get it on YouTube, and I'll put the link down there so you can see it. But when I mentioned that, okay, well, I just heard that the DC Attorney General was doing this lawsuit, but I hadn't had a chance to look at exactly what it was. I didn't really think it was going to be that broad or far-reaching with his, with what he's contending and suing them for. So that might be what's needed to take this whole thing to a proper end. So, and that might be the reason that we still haven't seen the final report from the other judge. That's Amy, I forgot her name, who's supposed to do a final report to replace that other 7-sentence nonsense thing. So because she's probably aware that this is happening, and so her statement could then be more evident. So it's just So there's a lot going. So I was just encouraged by how thorough he was, and how this lawsuit really does not hold back in any way. Yeah. So it's really not going away, and as it shouldn't. Yeah. As it shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, there's some justice that needs to happen here for sure.
So just a little update on, and it's the most civil because it's a civil lawsuit. So yeah, I've kind of had my brain in legal stuff this week because I've been following a case, a true crime, an actual case, and that means a lot to me. And so I'm like got my lawyers, jurists, kind of hat on this week. So yeah, so might not be super happy, fluffy news, but I think it's good news, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, something's happening. It's true. Don, you got me thinking here about how college athletes, especially the football players, I'm not saying anything controversial here, I think, when I say this, but they can get away with a lot more than most people can. Like there's a certain amount of bad behavior getting covered up if they're in the kind of privileged position of being in high profile athletics at the collegiate level, especially in Division I. And so I can see how that would breed a sense of like being above the law, and I wonder how much that goes into that mindset carries into the NFL for some players and the way how some teams are run. I feel like the Green Bay Packers, I mean, I want to believe that they don't put up with that kind of crap and they don't, let it happen and they go against it, and they lose the players who are causing problems. I mean, gosh, the way they cut Kylan Hill, just like surprisingly, almost out of nowhere, it seemed like.
Right.
So I'd be really curious to see, like more in-depth, I don't know, research, reporting what exactly about that correlation and how that mindset does or does not carry from the college level, football into the NFL. It's just a side thought there as you were talking about that. It made me think about that. Sure.
And especially because you're involved in
right.
Yeah.
Working at the University of Cincinnati. And I've known a lot of the football players in the team. So I've been an advisor for, a good number of them over the years. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot there. The whole grooming process and I have a whole issue about college players not getting paid and being basically working as slaves. And I think that what happens then is when they finally get their big contracts and get paid for like a lifetime at their point, even though they're only 20 years old, it's still their lifetime. They're finally getting paid. I just feel like there's a lot to that. They've been protected and insulated in a lot of ways. But then at the same time, they feel like they have rights because they've worked so hard too for nothing all those years. By the way, did Sean, was it Sean Patrick? I can't remember his last name. Did he get cut from the Packers for using PED or was it?
No, it's a 6-game suspension. Sean Ryan.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Sean Patrick. Close. Quite Irish. Yes. Okay. So he wasn't cut from the team for that.
Right. Yeah.
And that suspension would have come from the NFL. Probably.
That's right. Yes.
Right.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Oof. All right. Well, ending on a happy note there. So, Don, should I bring it home here?
Yes, please bring her home, Maddie.
All right. Well, friends, of course, you'll find links in our show description for everyone we mentioned. So please check it out. Also, we'd love to have a chance to interview you and shout you out if you're a subscriber and a football fan. If you'd like to nominate someone to be a guest on our podcast, please let us know. That includes yourself, of course. Our DMs are open on all the social platforms. And folks, when you subscribe to our podcast, you help us to keep spreading the love in our community. And the best way to help this podcast grow is by sharing it with your friends and family.
Friends and family. And this is a good time to do that because we're seeing a lot of them right now. Yes, Maddie, that's right. We love you. We're so glad to know you, to be fans of you, and to have the luxury of being fans of the most storied team in the NFL. We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod. And we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, we like your pod.
Football in general comes down to discipline and people owning their roles. And when you aren't disciplined or you go outside the scheme, bad stuff happens.